So, hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to Cyberwear NFT. We are here with Ashwini Deshpande. Yeah. And I'm super happy to have Ashwini here because she was graduated at London College of Fashion. She did a lot of things, like she worked for Microsoft, the Fashion Innovation Agency, and it's member of Maker Collective. And during the college, she found RZ, that was a platform like a startup for fashion brands about sustainability, that how we'll see it's really an important topic for Ashwini. But now she is working for Meta as digital fashion designer, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, we can start. Do you want to add something about you, about your story, and how like everything is going?
Thanks so much for the introduction, Claudia. Yeah, so as Claudia mentioned, I've worked with people like Microsoft and the Fashion Innovation Agency, and then I was at a startup called Republic after working on my own startup for a couple of years, and now I'm at Meta as digital designer. So it's been quite a journey, but I think sustainability has always been an important part of that journey. And the reason I turned to digital fashion was mainly because of sustainability. So really excited to chat today about one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, that's good. What is sustainability for digital fashion? What does it mean?
I think digital fashion can enable and aid sustainability in a lot of different ways. So I think that's the main impact that digital fashion to me can have, and the most important impact that it needs to have, which is, in production, first of all, it can reduce the number of samples you need to make for production. It can make global supply chains a lot more connected. And all of these things can lead to sustainability. It can reduce lead times, and it can enable sort of, made to order garments. And all of those things are really important. But also, we buy a lot of mindless fast fashion for things like social media, and digital fashion, I think, can also step in to be a replacement for that, at least to some extent. And I think that's another really important use of digital fashion to aid sustainability. But at the same time, it needs to, I think the purpose in which we use digital fashion is really important, and to keep in mind from the beginning that we should try to use it for the better rather than for the worse and purely for, say, marketing. So.
Okay. Do you want to speak a bit about how RZ is born? Because and there are lots of young people that are watching. So I think could be really an inspiring example of creating something together for sustainability.
Yeah, for sure. So Artsy started, Artsy or ArtZ, it started with a collaboration with Microsoft. So I was at London College of Fashion. I was a student when I started Artsy. And Microsoft came in to do a project, and basically it was, you need to use digital kind of softwares and things like AI and IoT for something within fashion. And for me, the biggest thing that was running in my head at the time was, how can I make fashion more sustainable? How can I work towards sustainability? And so at that point, I thought, how can I bring technology and sustainability together? I mean, technology is a really useful tool, and sustainability is a really hard problem. So how can these kind of make sense for each other? And that's when I started thinking about zero waste pattern cutting. I was very passionate about pattern cutting. I still do a lot of pattern cutting. So that was something I was really interested in. And then I thought, zero waste pattern cutting is not adopted by a lot of companies because it's quite hard to do. Sustainable initiatives are, in general, quite hard to do for brands. It takes a lot of investment, a lot of, new talent coming in and exploring new things. And so I thought, why not automate zero waste pattern cutting methods to make it easier for brands to design sustainably, so that they can design with less waste, but without having to make huge changes or huge investments, just with the click of a button. So that's how that started off. And it was an amazing journey with the Fashion Innovation Agency, with London College of Fashion, and with Microsoft, to build that and develop that. And I worked on it for about 2.5 years. And that's when I became introduced to the world of digital fashion. And I decided to take a step back from artsy and all the work I was doing in artificial intelligence, and instead work on digital fashion and fashion for the metaverse, which was a really exciting opportunity, and again, very relevant to sustainability.
Wow, nice. Speaking about today, could you give us like an example or a brand or a product or like something that you think that we can learn about it, a product that is lending to sustainability?
I think there are lots of really incredible products out there, honestly, today.
Yeah.
Like there's so many innovative new founders coming up with all of these amazing products. And I mean, I'm trying to think, it's really hard to pinpoint a specific one, to be honest. Especially, as a student, when I used to go to these competitions to promote artsy or pitch artsy, I would come across a lot of other students doing different things in different areas that were all really incredible. I mean, one of the ones that comes to mind, one of the big kind of, I guess, trends more than a specific platform is fashion rentals. There are so many incredible fashion rental apps that are popping up in industry, and I think that's a really exciting trend, and really aids sustainability, and is an important initiative that I think a lot of people are kind of working towards right now, which is really exciting.
That's great. There is something that you would like to share with us, a particular topic about sustainability, something that is important to you?
I think, honestly, the most important thing to me is just overconsumption. Because I think, I mean, it's that saying, right? Like, unless you switch off the tap, there's no point. Like, you could continue to, work on recycling things or designing more sustainably or doing all of these, fashion rentals and this and that. But until you switch off that tap and you stop, buying really cheap, fast fashion every single day, until you stop doing that, until the customer stops doing that, there's no real way to be sustainable. Like, whatever else you do, like, that's still going to continue. So I think that's a really essential part of it. And that's why I'm so excited by digital fashion, because I think that's one of the things that can really aid, where you can have, in today's culture, I mean, all of us want to look nice. We want to wear new clothes. We want to wear exciting clothes and cool clothes and all these things. And I think with digital fashion, there's just so much potential to be able to wear those things digitally and keep your carbon footprint really low and not have to create massive amounts of waste to be able to wear nice clothes and to be able to wear different clothes for every season and things like that. So yeah.
Okay, you know that there are like different, let's say, use of digital fashion. For example, I heard about filters. I heard about digital wearables. Which one do you think is the most powerful?
So for me personally, I think augmented reality is the one that's going to make the biggest impact. But that's my personal opinion. But I think the future is digital, where it's not completely digital. We're still going to need clothes in real life. We're not just going to be living in VR, although we're going to be living in VR more than we do today. But at the same time, the way Instagram filters, for instance, that's part of real life. That's part of, when you meet your friend, you might turn on a filter and then take a picture or a selfie. And that's part of real life, but it's also part of digital. And I think, when that first came up, like, people used to think, oh, why would I want to change my face? Why would I want to put a filter on my face? And yet it's so common today, and it's been adopted so widely, that I think digital fashion, once it becomes accessible to that extent, once the quality of the performance is high enough for that to happen, for it to be truly accessible to everyone, I think that's the thing that's going to really kind of revolutionize digital fashion and make it so much more popular, so much more usable to the common man.
Yeah, because usually when I speak with the young people like me, they are a bit skeptical about filters, but I think that filters about fashion, so clothes, can like change all the, body shaming, these kind of things, because usually you imagine filters like something that can change your, while it's completely a different topic. We are speaking about creating, living in a world more creative, like digitally and physically. So I think it's super, for sure I would like to go more in deep in this. And there are lots of brands that are using this kind of format, so selling digital stuff and have then the physical product. I'm like I used to hear a lot about this kind of format. What do you think? There is something that you would change, or I think it's a really good format?
I mean, I think it is definitely a good format to start off with, and it makes sense, people do want physical products, but it's also having that digital ownership adds value to that physical product. And it makes sense, if you have a bag in real life, to be able to have that same bag in your game in virtual reality is a really great way to sell to the customer, which I think is amazing. But I also think that's kind of a more early stage adoption method, in my opinion, that brands, that's the first step that they need to be doing, and a lot of them are doing that. But as time goes along, I think that it's probably going to become a little less important, and a lot more people are going to be bold enough to do something only digitally and be okay with that. The physical product might always have a digital equivalent in the future, but the digital product doesn't necessarily have to have a physical equivalent. And I think that's just a question of time. By the time customers get used to getting a digital product with a physical product, they'll also become more used to just getting a digital product and paying money for that digital product. So I think it's definitely a great way to drive adoption, though, and it definitely is a kind of a lasting business model that is going to continue. It's just that I think it will evolve with time as the customers grow and understand better. So.
Okay, just imagine like future. What is your vision for digital fashion, like in 5 years, for example?
Oh, that's hard, actually, because I mean, it's really hard when you look back 5 years. Things have changed so much in the last 5 years.
Yeah, maybe we can do
predicted.
like in 2 years,
But
like
oh
2
no,
years.
5 years is fine. I think, but I think there a lot will happen the next 5 years for sure, considering so many of the big players are investing in these technologies, and I think as they continue to invest in it, as people continue to create. And I mean, COVID itself sped the process up so much. Because of COVID, digital fashion just accelerated. What should have happened in 5 years happened in 1 year because of COVID. And so I think the next 5 years as well, it's going to go really fast. And I definitely think AR is going to become so much more relevant in 5 years. I think pretty much, most people who can afford it will have virtual reality headsets or augmented reality headsets. It'll become so much more the norm. It'll become a lot more like, maybe 7-8 years down the line, I think it'll be like a smartphone, the way everyone has a smartphone or an iPhone or something. Like everyone will have some kind of virtual or augmented reality headset or product, which is really exciting. Yeah, I mean, optimistically, maybe it'll happen in 5 years, or maybe it'll take a little bit longer than that. We'll have to see. But yeah, I think it'll definitely happen faster than we expect it to happen.
Okay. And for the people that are about to start, like know more digital fashion, they don't know so much yet. There is something that you advise, like what shall they do to like keep the track of the development in digital fashion?
So I think there are some really great platforms out there today, whether that's Vogue Business or Business of Fashion, or some of those kind of platforms, Forbes. A lot of them write a lot about what is happening in digital fashion today. There are also several podcasts actually that talk about what's happening in digital fashion, which I think is really cool and interesting and a fun way to learn about it as well. But apart from that, I think Instagram is a great platform for these things. If you just follow kind of digital fashion creators and things, people are always posting really cool work, and then from one person that leads you to another person, and you follow their work, and you really can form a network there and learn a lot about their work and learn about what's happening in digital fashion. So yeah, I think social media is a great way to stay in touch with what's happening.
Okay, that's great. And another thing, because you are a digital fashion artist, something about like your concept, how you develop a concept, because maybe some people think that creating a concept for physical fashion is different than a digital fashion. Or I would like to know your like point of view.
So for me, my process, to be honest, has now become fully digital, but it's still the same process that I used to use with physical fashion, just digitally. So, it still starts off with research and development and all these things. And when you're doing your research, looking for inspiration, I think online has anyway become a really common place to go. Even if you're doing a physical sketchbook, you'll probably pick a lot of your pictures online. And so I do the same thing, but instead of, working in a sketchbook, I'll usually work on something like Photoshop and just sketch on there, do my rough ideas on there. If I'm doing some draping on the mannequin, I'll do that again digitally. I'll put pins on the mannequin digitally and drape digitally, try different fabrics. And I mean, what is a huge advantage about that is that I can experiment so much more than with physical. Because with physical, I don't have 500 different types of fabrics that I can try out. Whereas with digital, I have every color, every kind of fabric, and I can try it out. I can cut it up, and then I can get another massive piece of fabric without any wastage, and without having to, spend money, without having a large studio of my own. So I think it just allows for so much more experimentation. But apart from that, my process is still the same. I'll still go sketch in my sketchbook, and then do some development, start with some draping, and then do some basic patterns, and then go back and make changes. I think it's pretty much the same process, except that it's all digital, really. There's an equivalent for every physical item and step.
So. Okay, that's great. There is something that you would like to speak in particular, just because we have like other few minutes, or are you?
I think you covered most of it, to be honest. Those are really interesting questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot, Ashwini, for all the advice and to share with us your story. We are super curious to know how you are going to grow so fast, because you are like young like us, but you did a lot. So I'm so curious to know more in future. And
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was really nice talking to you, Claudia. And yeah, thanks so much for having me.